Okay, here's a video going through some possible scenarios of what to be prepared for in Ableton if you had to make some changes to a service. So we'll go ahead and open Ableton. We'll open a weekend that we've got coming up here. Let's see, I've got this one, so we'll open that one. All right, so I've got the songs Holy Sound, It As Well, and Gratitude. So let's look at our first scenario. So we're going to change the key of a song. Let's see how do we change the key. So we said we want to sing this in D. The original I can see is in E originally. So if we take a look at this, and we're going to unfold this kind of lower third, lower quarter of the screen with this arrow. This is kind of our information view. You can see I've got a couple of tabs here. You want to make sure that you're looking at the waveform of the actual audio file. And then if you look here, you've got the pitch adjustment. So this is currently set to -2, which makes sense. That's going down 2 semitones or 2 half steps to go down from the original key, which was E, down to D. But let's say we want to sing this in C. We want to go down -4. But what we've done now is only the original track. We've lowered the original track from E down to C. But to actually play this song with the tracks, we need to transpose all of the tonal instrument multitracks. So we're going to unfold the group here of multitracks, and we're going to skip over any non-tonal instruments. You can see this is not transposed because it's the drums. You don't need to transpose the drums. We're going to look for our first tonal instrument that has been transposed down from E down to D, but we want to move it all the way down to C. And once I hit my first tonal instrument, you can really scroll down to the bottom, hold down Shift, and click to select all of the tracks, because all of these will be tonal instruments. You can see they are all -2. We're going to click on that and say -4. And now this will be sung in C, but you might notice I've got the pad still in D, and I've got this auto-tune trigger still in D. So what I need to do to fix that, over here in, I call it no man's land, out here at the very end of the set, I've got these little clips in here for all the different keys you might need. So I've got a pad clip in C and an auto-tune clip in C. I'm going to select both of those by shift clicking. I'm going to do Command C to copy. I'm going to jump back over to the beginning of the song, and where that pad is, I'm going to paste that in, and then I'm going to just drag this clip over, cover up that D and replace it with the C, and then I can just drag this out as well. So this will be the key of C now if I play that. Yep, that's C, I can tell. I can't tell, but that's how you do that. So we've transposed, we've changed the key. Let's say we want to change the arrangement. So let's mention how the lyric clips work first. So when we talk about changing an arrangement, probably what we're going to do is, let's take a look at this song. Let's say we've got verse 2. Let's say we want to sing that twice. So what you could do is select this section of the music. I've clicked on this marker, and then I'm going to go up to the top and hold down the Shift key, and then click on the bottom here. Oh, that's not what I want to do. That's not it at all. Let's start back here. And then if I go here and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this marker and then arrow up and then hold Shift and just arrow down. So now I'm going to select just that section of the grid, but all of the songs, or sorry, all of the clips, and then I'm going to duplicate it. So up here, Edit and Duplicate. So now I've put in a second verse, or I've doubled the second verse. Oh, my audio is sounding a little funky here. Ooh, that sounds terrible. Don't know what that's about. But that's roughly it. But now we've got to take a look at, I mentioned we want to look at how the lyric slides work. So we're going to zoom in a little bit. You can see coming into this second verse, you've got slide 9, and slide 10, 11, 12, and then this slide 13 would be progressing on toward the chorus. But again, we don't want to pull up the chorus slide. We want to put that verse slide in. So there's a couple ways to do this. You could just copy and then at the the start of that measure right before the verse, you'd paste that section in. But what I can actually do is just zoom in a little closer and see I've already got a slide 9. And what happened was when I selected my grid in that verse area and then I arrowed down, see it's selecting that kind of final quarter of that slide 9 clip. So what I can do is go back to that and stretch that back forward. Now what you need to notice is there's a MIDI note in here right there. See that? So that's the MIDI note that is sending the signal to Cube per presenter to display slide 9. So that's the part that needs to be displayed. If I just left this part, nothing would happen. Even though it passes this slide 9, it's not actually cueing slide 9 because it's not sounding the MIDI note. So I've got to make sure that the MIDI note is preserved there. So I'd stretch that back out. I can just get rid of this and delete that. And then, so it's going to go slide 12, then back to slide 9, 10. This is 14. So that came in. You know what I just realized? We did this wrong. This is good. So we duplicated the verse over the top of the chorus. So I'm going to undo until we can fix that. All the way back to where we see chorus 1. Yeah, so we just kind of layered over that verse over the chorus. That's not what you want to do. If I redo that, I'll show you. So notice that the tag here doesn't move. If I redo what we did, which was a mistake, the tag is still there. Instead of it being verse and then chorus, it's replacing the chorus with another verse and then going to the tag. That would sound terrible. So let's undo duplicate clip. What I meant to do was duplicate time. So Command Shift D or Shift Command D, duplicate time, will, again, referencing all of this content, will duplicate it, but it'll insert that amount of time right here. So after measure 38, measure 39 will be the new verse, but the chorus will jump back however many, eight measures or whatever to be back here. So if I do edit and duplicate time, there we go, that's much better. So now I've got verse or slide 9. I knew that looked a little funny. So we had slide 9 kind of spliced into slide 13. That would have been the mistake. You saw slide 13 over here and then slide 14 was somewhere over here. That won't happen because it pushed slide 14 all the way back to here in this case. But I do still need to take a close look at this transition. So slide 12, slide 13 does stay here because that technically fires at the end of the verse, but I can just drag this back over it so that my slide 9 cues 10, 11, 12, and then I need 13, that's correct, but just to clean it up I can do this and say 13, and then 14 and all that moves on. Now, the other thing to look at is the cues. What would have happened, this would have said verse and then build and then chorus, and then it would have gone to the chorus. But in reality, what we want to do is go to the verse again. So I think what I'd probably do is just get rid of this, just delete that, copy this, and then paste it into the last measure so that you can see the sound verse. Cool. So that's working. Again, my audio just sounds terrible. I think it's because I'm making a video, but so we gave a nod to how the lyrics work. Let's create a drop, remove, add, duplicate a section. We did duplicate a section, so let's see if we tried removing a section. Let's say we want to get rid of a section. How would we do that? Let's say instead of this interlude of bridge 1, I want to go straight into bridge 1. So after this tag, I want to go right into the bridge. It's really very simple. So what I'm going to do, what I could do is just click on this and then delete time. I would do that, but then it would delete everything in here, including my bridge cue. So knowing that that's going to happen, I'm just going to move my bridge cue over to where it's going to be helpful. Because after this tag, like I said, I want to go into the bridge. So the last measure of that tag, I want to cue the bridge. And so I'm going to select this section now and say edit and delete time. And then it just pulls out all that time and just pulls forward that bridge. 2, 3, 4. Cool. That doesn't sound particularly good, but that's how you would do it. Again, you wouldn't do it in this case necessarily, but you could, if you wanted to make it sound better, you could do a crossfade here. So you can select kind of the last half of the measure and the first half of the measure of this transition, and then right-click and say create crossfade. And if you want to do that for all the tracks, you just hold Shift and go all the way, just arrow down to the bottom here, and then right-click and create crossfade for all those. And so that probably, again, sounds absolutely disgusting. I'm not sure why that's happening. Please ignore that. I think it's because I'm making the video. But that's how you would remove a section. So let's create a drop now. Again, it's going to sound terrible because my audio is for some reason bugging out. But let's say we want to build up in this bridge. We're going to build, and then a drop at this first measure. You could say, I want to keep the downbeat, so this kick right here, but then everything after it I want out. So I'd click there and then click here, or maybe let's build back in on the last beat. I don't know how that's going to sound, but let's try. I do know how it's going to sound. It's going to sound terrible because my computer's flaking out. But I just select that section and delete it. And then build back in. So however you want to do that, in the context, that's the tool that you would use. You just select the section of clip that you want to delete and then just hit delete. Then if you want to stretch it out and say, you know what, I want the background vocals, you wouldn't want that. But let's say you want one of the electrics to continue to ring out. You do something like this and you create a fade. Create fade out. So if we go here, instead of building in, we want that to fade in. So we'll go here and we'll arrow down, Shift, holding Shift, and I'm arrowing down to do a fade. We'll create a crossfade. So you'll hear it like this. Break. And back in. Cool. And then if you want to get super fancy, you can add a cue. If you come over to Templates and Tools, and then Cues Project, whatever time signature you're in this case 4/4, and you'd say break. So we'd go chorus 2, and then instead of 3/4, we'll just condense that a little bit, and we'll say break. And this would say break 2, 3, 4, so we'll just trim that out and say chorus 2, break. And with crossfades and stuff, you could make that a little smoother and have it swell in wherever you want it to. So, and you could add another cue if you say, hey, I want to swell in, or I want to do, you could say I want to do build it up right there, right? So that's how you do a drop. Add, remove time for a transition. So let's say between songs, let's say we did change keys here from D down to C. Let's say we went to something that would be unflattering to have G fade in here. In this case, I have the G pad overlapping with the D, or in this case, C is fine. That would still sound okay, but let's say it was like F sharp. If we're trash canning on an F sharp and then the G pad comes in, that would sound like trash. So you just select a section of grid, probably do honestly just one bar, and then copy with Command C, and then go to where you want to add the time and click up here. You go, let's see, paste time, and you see it cut my G clip in half. So what I need to do is drag it back and then stretch it back out. It's important to have the pad clip start preserved. So if I stretch this out, you can see that little tick mark right underneath where the hand symbol is, and there's one down here too. That means that's the beginning of that audio clip, or that MIDI clip, and that's where the note is actually fired, and then it is sustained for the entirety of the clip, and it's like a 20-minute long clip. It's a super long clip, but this is super important. If you start playing it after where it's supposed to begin, nothing will happen. So you have to start playing it right at the beginning. And then it starts to swell in that G. So that's super important to make sure you preserve the beginning of that clip. Make sure that that's always true. And in this case, so we've got C fading out. Again, if it was F sharp or something unflattering for G, you might want a little more space in here, but you just do that again. You'd say edit and paste time for another, you just want to take a breath here. And then up here you notice maybe that the grid, so this is a time signature change, it's changing to 7/4 right here unnecessarily, so we can delete that. It's going to stay in 4/4, and then here, where the click is going to come in, it's going to go to 7/4, and that should be fine. So we've added some time, add or remove time. Let's say we want to remove some time from a transition. You know what, we changed it back. Let's just get rid of this. So if we go that same section and say edit, delete time. Again though, notice, no pad, because when I deleted time, I deleted the front of my MIDI clip. So there's the front of my MIDI clip. It's going to start right there. Trash canning out on a C, coming in on a G, that should sound okay. Let's talk about routing. So if we go to our tracks, routing used to be done. A very logical way to think of it would be manually routing to an external output and then routing to outputs 1 through 13 or whatever on these clips. But you don't have to do that, and that's not how it's done anymore. So that if you're familiar with this from previously, it has changed. And observe now how it works. So if you do session view, so right now these horizontal lines mean we're in arrangement view from left to right. Vertical lines mean we're in session view. So we'll go to session view, and you can see right down here you've got sends. Right here it says sends. That's this S. If that's not displayed, click on the S. And you need to send each one of these tracks to a send or a bus. In this case, bus B for the drums and bus C for the percussion. And this all coordinates with the returns. So if you go back to arrangement view, you can see the returns with this R. So let me fold that down and then click on the R. You can see the returns. So A through J are our buses or send return channels. You can view the returns here, and like I said, you can go to the sends. But if you take a look at A is going to output 1, and B is going to output 2, all the way through J is going to output 3. This corresponds with channels on the soundboard. So the console is going to have pad on one channel, and track drums and track percussion, and you'll have to check with Jaden what's supposed to land where on the console, and what external output it should be. By default it should all be coordinated, and you shouldn't have to do this, but just in case something's going wrong, this is where you would look. So make sure that your external output, in this case I'm not connected to the external output, otherwise these would not be grayed out. You'd have 3 through 13 black, just like the 1 and 2 are. But then you'd come over to session view and then make sure that these are routed properly. So if you end up having, for some reason, all of those just went to I, that would be wrong. That's because I have all of these selected for some reason. So if I put drums and I for some reason, and it's coming to the, I think that's the auxiliary. Yeah, it's tracks auxiliary are I. That would be a bad place to have drums. So make sure drums are going to B, which is drums, track drums. So that's just a quick brush at how routing goes. Also notice, so click and cues has been messed up in the past. I think it's all fixed. Like I said, you shouldn't have to hassle with this at all. But click goes to J. Original track, which is disabled by default, goes to J. And cues go to J as well. So click and cues are both in J. If for some reason you're not hearing any cues, check that. We'll go back to here and slide back out here. Let's see, we did routing. Let's say disable and enable clips and tracks. So if for some reason you're not hearing any of your tracks, they might be disabled. So when they're grayed out like this, that means they're disabled. You would right click and say, activate. So the 0 key activates and deactivates. Also the tracks themselves can be activated and deactivated. So just check check that if you're having any problem hearing. You're like seeing it looks green. I'm seeing like it should be there, but I'm just not getting any audio. So this is grayed out because this is grayed out. So if you turn that on, then this turns green. So that's clips and tracks. Routing to MIDI. So we've got a few tracks that are routing. They're MIDI tracks that are routing out of the computer. The trigger slide track goes to Pro Presenter, obviously. Pro P commands, select playlist item. Those go out of the network MIDI port, Ableton. Channel 1, by default, it doesn't technically matter because Pro Presenter listens on every channel. Same thing with Auto Tune goes out. This does matter what channel it's on, but it goes out to the same port, MIDI port, Ableton. So if this is grayed out, you click on it and click there, and then it should turn black if there's any problems there. If you have further issues with it, you can check preferences, and then MIDI. These checkboxes should be checked in this orientation or something. I'm on my laptop right now, but it should be very similar for the iMac. You might see other things on here like the MIDI controller, but don't worry about that. And then let's see, network connection. So you're probably already familiar with the audio MIDI setup. If you're looking at it and you don't see that window, you just open it up and you see these two windows. Go MIDI Studio, open MIDI network setup, and then you can see that. And then, obviously you want to disconnect and then connect to whatever device you're trying to connect to. Again, you're looking at my laptop, but in the case of the iMac, you would see the graphics computer that you'd be connected to. You also need to connect to the Axis One, which is the front of house wave server. All right, so here's how you would change the order of songs in Ableton if you needed to do that. It's not super easy to do, so unless you have an ample amount of time to do it, I would just politely decline the request and say, no, I think we should just keep the order the same. You always have the freedom to do that, especially with larger requests. If it's like a key change, that's pretty easy. If it's kind of altering the timeline and arrangement, that's more invasive. Altering the order of songs is probably the most invasive. That's where you're starting to mess with not only Ableton, but also Pro Presenter and QLab. You really need to loop Jaden into that, and just between you and Jaden, determine if you have a comfort level to proceed. But if you do, this is how you do it. So we'll go back over to Ableton. In this case, we've got it as well, and then gratitude. And I'll just show kind of a rough take on how you would do this. We're gonna get a little bit dirty here, but that's okay. So we're gonna select our song 3. Sorry, locator 3. It says song 3. This is actually just the auto repeat, and locator 4 is technically song 3, even though it says song 4. Anyway, we're gonna select this entire click and pad section before the response song. Let's call it that. And then we're going to shift click down here to select everything. We're going to cut it with Command X. Again, it's getting a little intense, but you can undo anything if you just don't save. So be brave and don't save. So if you click now where you want that pad to come in, this seam right here where we switch to 7/4 and we start this click for it as well is a good spot. So we're going to paste time by doing Command Shift V, or you can go Edit, Paste Time. Sorry, let's see. You know what? You have to be really specific with where you click. So let me undo this. Go back. Go Command Z. Oh, you know what? I redo this. Okay, so I uncut my clip here, and I'm going to select this click again, and I'm going to go cut. So shift click and then Command X to cut. And then if we come back over here and click in where our click track is, the same spot that the top leftmost corner of where we cut, we're going to Command Shift V, or you can go Edit, Paste Time. And so that just kind of slams that in there. Again, that's rough because you see we started our G pad and then it's going to switch to D. And then if you go out to this edge, this is not cleaned up either. So we're going to do some cleanup now. Let's see, first I'm going to drag this forward so that it starts D right there instead of G. What else do I need to do? I've got my D auto tune there, that's fine. I need my locator, not one here. This was locator 3 for response noodling. I don't need that. I need locator 2. So we'll grab that. And holding that down, if I zoom out with the minus key, I can move a little bit farther. Oh boy. Sorry. Kind of move a little faster with this minus key by zooming out. And then I'll zoom back in with Shift plus. And then drop that at the beginning of the song. And I need to change that to, let's say, again, number 2 still. But we're going to say gratitude in D. And then where this says song 1, this should say song 2. So I'm going to find that clip and drag that over. So I'm just going to take a little selection of it, copy that, and then paste it, and just drag it out. And then I can drag 1 out to here. Now notice also this is still 7/4. I need that to be 6/8. So we're going to edit that and say 6/8. So this 6/8 click, this time signature change is 6/8. That's perfect. And then I do want this song 2 LED feedback clip to span the entire length of song 2. And that's just going to illuminate pad number 2 for the drummer. And then just kind of treat the end of this song to function the way that it's supposed to. So I need an auto repeat, so I'll just drag this one over. So you have the song. This is starting to look like the end of song 2. I'm going to add a little bit of space in here. So this is going to become our response noodling. Ignore song 1, we'll change that. But this is what response noodling should look like, more or less. So we're going to copy a little bit of time, paste that in with edit, paste time, or Command Shift V. It's fine that it's 7/4, I guess. It doesn't really matter. Just a little bit of space so that we can see response noodling is going to start here. So now I'm going to find that locator. It should be locator 3, which is out past this song at this point, because this is where gratitude was, right? So we're going to drag this over. Number 3 is going to be response noodling. And again, I'm zooming out with the minuses and Shift plus key, zooming back in with the Shift plus key. I'm going to rename this and change it to G instead of D. All right, and then just kind of zoom in and see what's going on with our time signature changes. This is 7/4. I've got a measure of 3, 4, and then 4/4 to make 7/4. So I need my auto repeat locator to go right here. So let me go over and grab that. It should be this one. No, sorry, not that one. This one right here is fine. Doesn't really matter which one you grab, it's just that one was already in place. Alright, so this is looking right. Again, ignore this, we'll change this in a second, but then I need number 4 to be right here, and it's going to say it is well in the key of G, which is not what it says right now, but we'll change that. Alright, so gratitude, this number 4 is going to come over. Zoom in. Okay, and then we'll rename that. It is well key of G. Cool, so this is looking right. And then that song ends and you've got the auto repeat. You can disable this click if you want to by right clicking and say deactivate clips so that you don't have this click going. Also, this is fine actually, so you can have that auto repeat right there. You can have that here or here, it doesn't really matter. In this case, it doesn't really matter. So let me see here. Now I'll take a look at these LED feedback clips. So for 1, I have 1. Oh, that's interesting. So I've got a 7/4 change right here, which I don't think I should have. No. This section of Holy Sound is not in 7/4, so we're going to get rid of that. I'm not sure where that came from. Sorry about that. And then this is 4/4. That should be in 4/4. You know, I think this is from when we did some editing earlier in the video. But either way, ignoring that, song 1, locate, or the LED feedback. Oh yeah, this is from earlier in the video. But if we jump over to song 2, yep, LED feedback is song 2. That's perfect. And that goes all the way to the end. And then I want this to be song 3 for the LED feedback clip. So I'm going to come over, I think it's over here. Yep, I'm going to grab that, Command C, I guess do Command X to cut, either way, and then paste it right here. And then I need to stretch this out to display that pad 3 the whole time that this is playing. And then I want this to be song 4 for the LED feedback. So I'm going to, in this case, I don't want to, it's sometimes okay to copy the whole thing, but I'm just going to copy a small section and stretch it out. Just that I feel like that gives me a little more control in this case. So I'm going to Command C, jump over here, Command V, and stretch her out. Stretch her on out. Doing the minus key to zoom out a little bit, move faster, and then just zoom in at the end to see where that ends. And that's cool. All right, now final steps, probably just double check time signature changes. This all looked good, but this is 7/4, so let me just see if that stayed good. Yep, 7/4 from here to here. This turns to 4/4, and then back to 7/4, 4/4, 7/4 for a little bit, 4/4, and then 7/4 at the end. That looks right. Okay, now final step we need to do, if we're changing the order of songs, we're going to have to coordinate this with Jaden again, because he's going to go in and change these service plan in ProPresenter. He's going to change QLab to match ProPresenter, and Planning Center and ProPresenter. So anyway, this currently has nothing, which is not right. Let's see. This would be item 6. That still will be because we didn't change the order of that. What is this? So this is item 7. It as well used to be item 7 in the playlist, but now Gratitude is going to be item 7. So we're going to cut this. Command X to cut, then paste it. Command V to paste. You know what I just noticed? This would not work well because you do not have an auto repeat right here. So I can go over here and find an auto repeat. There's probably one floating around over here. This one, I think. But just to show how to add one, just so you know, is I can just hit this set button right here, and wherever my cursor is, it's going to create a locator. I can rename it auto repeat. Great. So now this will loop properly. Back to what I was saying, this is now item 7 in the playlist, which is great. I'd have to double check the service plan and see what it as well became. I would guess like 11 or 12 or something like that. You would just double check with Jaden, double check the service plan, and just find out what item counting, including the headers. If you count the headers and the actual like announcements video and song 1, and count all the way down, including the headers that say like call to worship or response or whatever those headers say, those count as well as items in the playlist. But let's just pretend that it's 12. So you'd go into templates and tools, ProPresenter, select playlist item, not select playlist, but select playlist item 12, and drop it in where it says playlist item. So that is the complicated route you would take to change the order of songs. Again, if you are a little bit uncomfortable with doing it, just tell the worship leader, hey, you know what, let's wait until Brandon gets back to get creative with the structure of services. What we have planned in the next 8 weeks is great. But that's how you do it. So, and then the last thing I was going to show was tempo not automated. So it is possible that you would get to this song and hit play and it would be like the wrong tempo. The thing you would check, the thing that controls the tempo, this is the tempo up here, and it's grayed out to indicate that it's automated. If I right click and unfollow tempo automation, it becomes black, and that can get a little bit squirrely and kind of have a mind of its own. So I'm going to re-enable let's see. Can I do edit, undo? Yeah, let's undo what I just did. So this should be grayed out. That means that everywhere, so let me explain this tempo clip right here in the tempo track. It says enter tempo in seg BPM. So if I click on this and then I open up this lower quarter quadrant pane right here by clicking this arrow, you can see kind of the clip view, clip information. There's all this detail down here. This is the tempo. This is the seg BPM tempo for this this clip. If I type in, let's say we want to speed this up by 2 beats, I'd go 67 and hit enter. And then if you click here, you'll notice this doesn't change yet. The thing you have to do to for it to actually acknowledge changes to the tempo is check this box from lead to follow and then back to lead. And so now if I click here, it's 67. So if you're going to do that, that's how you do that. If for any reason it's slower than it should be or faster than it should be or speeding up or slowing down and you have a sense or a hunch that that's not on purpose, again, some songs do that, like Turn Your Eyes does that notoriously. It's kind of hip these days apparently to change tempo a lot. So that's programmed in a lot of cases. But if you're curious, like the one time that we did Glorious Day and it was like it slowed down by like 20 beats over the course of the song, that would be fixed by checking your tempo clip. And if you just unfollow and follow, or I guess unlead and lead, so lead to follow, back to lead, that will fix most problems with any tempo issues that you have. It'll just re-enable automation. Or if you want to change tempo, do it here. But note that this is a clip that's distinct from the tempo clip in the response noodling or between songs. This is a separate clip. So if you change the tempo for the song, you need to also change the tempo for the pre-song click. So if I go 67 here, again, this is not 67 yet until I toggle that off and on again, and then you're good to go. So that is about all I can think of to explain in a video of what scenarios you might run into where you need to modify what's been built in Ableton for the next 8 weeks. Hope that helps. Thanks.